Fyodor I Ivanovich, Feodor I Ioannovich, the 31st of May 1557, 17th January 1598, also known as Feodor the Bellringer, was the last Rurikid Tsar of Russia. Fyodor's mother died when he was 3, and he grew up in the shadow of his father, Ivan the Terrible. A pious man of retiring disposition, Fyodor took little interest in politics, and the country was effectively administered in his name by Boris Godunov, the brother of his beloved wife Irina. His childless death left the Rurikid dynasty extinct, and spurred Russia's descent into the catastrophic time of troubles. In Russian documents, Fyodor is sometimes called blessed. He is also listed in the Great Synoharists of the Orthodox Church with his feast day on January 7. Background: Fyodor was born in Moscow, the son of Ivan IV by his first wife, Anastasia Romanovna. Although he was the sixth and youngest child of his mother, he grew up with only one older brother, Ivan, because all his other older siblings died before Fyodor was 1 year old. His mother also died by the time Fyodor was 3 years old, and her death greatly affected his father, who had been very attached to his wife. Ivan the Terrible began to earn his sobriquet, the Terrible, during the years of Fyodor's childhood. He also took a series of other wives, but Fyodor's only surviving step-sibling, Dmitri, was fully 25 years younger than him. Fyodor therefore grew up in the shadow of a terrible father, with no mother to succor him, and only his older brother Ivan for family solidarity. He grew to be sickly of health and diffident of temperament. He was extremely pious by nature, spending hours in prayer and contemplation. He was very fond of visiting churches, and would often cause the bells to be rung according to a special tradition in the Russian Orthodox Church. For this reason, he is known to history as Feodor the Bellringer. In Russian documents, he is sometimes called blessed. He is also listed in the Great Synoharists of the Orthodox Church with his feast day on January 7. Overall, he was considered a good-natured, simple-minded man who took little interest in politics. By some reports, he may have suffered from intellectual disability, a learning disability, but this may have been a misinterpretation of his nature and behavior. Marriage. In 1580, Fyodor married Irina Fyodorovna Godunova, sister of Ivan's minister Boris Godunov. Although the marriage was arranged by the Tsar, and the couple knew nothing of each other before the wedding day, they went on to have a strong marriage. The lonely Fyodor soon grew extremely close to his wife, to a degree that was unusual for that period and milieu. Husband and wife shared a relationship of warmth and trust which was the support of Fyodor's life as long as he lived. However, the marriage was not immediately blessed with children, and may not have even been consummated for some years. It was only in 1592, after almost 12 years of marriage, that Tsaritsa Irina gave birth to a daughter, who was named Feodosia after her father. Fyodor and his wife doted on the daughter, who however died aged 2 in 1594. There were no other children from the marriage. Reign. In November 1581, Fyodor's elder brother Ivan Ivanovich was killed by the father in a fit of rage. His death meant that Fyodor became the heir to his father's throne. He had never been considered a candidate for the Russian throne until that moment, and was not a little daunted by the prospect. 1 year later, in October 1582, his father's latest wife bore a son, Dmitri, who was Fyodor's only surviving sibling. Ivan the Terrible died in March 1584, and Fyodor became Tsar. 2 months later, on the 31st of May 1584, he was crowned Tsar and autocrat of all Russia at Assumption Cathedral in Moscow. Fyodor was only the nominal ruler, having his duties handed over to his wife's brother and trusted minister Boris Godunov, who would later succeed Fyodor as Tsar. Fyodor's childless death left the Rurikid dynasty extinct, and spurred Russia's descent into the catastrophic time of troubles. Boris legitimized himself after Ivan IV's death as a de facto regent for the weak and disabled Tsar Fyodor. Fyodor's failure to sire other children brought an end to the centuries-old central branch of the Rurikid dynasty. Fyodor was succeeded as Tsar by Godunov, who had for many years ruled in Fyodor's name. The termination of the dynasty can also be considered to be one of the reasons for the time of troubles. He died in Moscow and was buried at Archangel Cathedral, Kremlin. His troubled reign was dramatized by Alexei Konstantinovich Tolstoy in his verse dramas Fyodor I Ivanovich. Foreign policy. Unlike his father Fyodor, he had no enthusiasm for maintaining exclusive trading rights with the Kingdom of England. Fyodor declared his kingdom open to all foreigners, and dismissed the English ambassador Sir Jerome Bowes, whose pomposity had been tolerated by Fyodor's father. Elizabeth I sent a new ambassador, Charles Fletcher the Elder, to demand of Boris Godunov that he convince the Tsar to reconsider. The negotiations failed because Fletcher addressed Fyodor with two of his titles omitted. Even after this setback, Elizabeth continued to address Fyodor on the topic in half-appealing, half-reproachful letters. She proposed an alliance between Russia and England, something which she had refused to do when it had been sought by Fyodor's father, but he turned her down.